time travel. Today I'm going to give you a supplementary lesson in my recent series of lessons on how you too can learn to play the wonderful lyres of ancient Greece. And the type of lyre I've been concentrating on is called the Chelys, or tortoiseshell form of lyre. Now in the first 11 lessons I've been playing a Chelys, tortoiseshell form of lyre made by Luthieros, ancient and modern music instruments. Luthieros are based in Thessaloniki in modern day Greece, and as part of the inspirational Lyre 2 project, which is dedicated to reintroducing these beautiful instruments back into our modern world, they've been making for me these beautiful, wonderful instruments for me to demonstrate and record with. An amazing collaboration, and you can find out more details about the Lyre 2 project on my website blog. Go to ancientlyre.com, and on the top navigation bar I've got my extended blog on the Lyre 2 project. So that's a bit of background again. So the first 11 lessons featured a Chelys of a tenor register, quite a big beast, and this had a resonator. Although in the style of a tortoiseshell, it was made out of wood, which gave a much richer, deeper sound, as obviously wood is a better resonator than tortoiseshell. But this is the latest model, which uses actual tortoiseshell resonator and actual ram's horns, almost exactly the same as it was made in ancient Greece. The only thing different is the use of friction pegs, because the original way that these wonderful tortoiseshell lyres were played it had little bits of slippy ox hide, and you had to spend hours and hours looping strings around this ox hide and then fiddling around with it, and it never stayed in tune anyway. So a really elegant solution Luthieros came up with is these wonderful little pegs, which, although they are tuning pegs, they're in the style of tuning levers. Now, tuning levers were little bits of wood often inserted into the string spool, which you could sort of twist around these little slippy loops of ox hide. So that's a little bit about this wonderful lyre, and fear not, no tortoises were harmed in the creation of this amazing beast of the ancient Greek gods, because all the tortoise shells are locally sourced from poor tortoises who have naturally passed away through natural causes. So that's a bit of background about this wonderful instrument called the King Kylix Lyre of Pan. If you want to find out more details on my Lyre 2 project blog on these wonderful things. So anyway, back to the point of today's lesson. This is about some of the tunings. Now, on the Lyre of Apollo 3, which I featured in my first 11 lessons, this had 11 strings, and it was very easy to just keep one standard tuning, more or less, to play all the different ancient Greek modes. However, in ancient Greek times, the lyres generally had between 4 up to 12 strings, but the standard number of strings was around 7, because there were spiritual reasons for that, because the ancient Greek god of music, Apollo, was apparently born on the 7th day of the 7th month. And also with 7 strings you can play a basic accompaniment which can accompany almost any song, but it's very hard to play as a solo instrument. Now if you want to play a solo instrument, you need at least, in my opinion, at least 9 strings. And besides the 11 strings I have on my wonderful Lyre of Apollo 3, this beautiful beast has 9 strings. So I had to be a bit more adaptive in the tunings I use in order to play all the ancient Greek modes that I use. So first of all, just a recap on the ancient Greek modes. Basically, some background, not to be confused with the early medieval church modes. Now, in the early medieval period, all the original names of the ancient Greek modes are given the wrong Greek names, so it's very confusing terminology indeed. So if you want to go back to ancient Greek times, the Lydian mode was the equivalent intervals as C to C on the white notes of the piano. The Phrygian mode, the ancient Greek Phrygian mode, was the equivalent intervals as D to D on the white notes of the piano. The ancient Greek Dorian mode, the favourite mode of Plato himself, was the equivalent intervals as E to E. A very intense sounding mode, the ancient Greek Dorian mode. Then the Hypolydian mode was the name given to the equivalent intervals between F to F on the white notes of the piano. This is a wonderful, dreamy, sort of feminine sounding mode. Then the ancient Greek Hypophrygian mode is the equivalent intervals as G to G on the white notes of the piano. And the ancient Greek Hyperdorian mode was the equivalent intervals as A to A on the white notes of the piano. Sometimes called the natural minor scale, and that's how our modern boring minor scales are derived, from this natural minor scale, one of the ancient Greek modes. A mode that you very, very rarely use because it has a really horrible sounding sort of diminished fifth is the ancient Greek Mixolydian mode, which is the equivalent intervals as B to B. Now, for practical reasons, in most of my compositions for lyres, I focus on 5 of the ancient Greek modes, and these are the Phrygian, the Dorian, the Hypolydian, the Hypophrygian, and the Hyperdorian. The Lydian mode, the consonant intervals as C to C, that's basically a regular modern major scale. So I want to get away from the sort of sound of modern music. And also, as I say, I don't use B to B generally. There's just one piece in my repertoire that uses that very strange sounding mode. So basically I concentrate on those 5 modes. So this is how I tune this wonderful lyre to play all these wonderful ancient Greek modes. Let's just refer to my little piece of paper first of all. Okay, the tuning I've got at the moment enables me to play the ancient Greek Dorian mode, that's the equivalent intervals as E to E, and also the ancient Greek Hypodorian mode, the equivalent intervals as A to A. As I mentioned when I was talking about tunings for lyre, I always treat the lyre as a transposing instrument. It's much easier to think in terms of C to C on the white notes of the piano, because there is no standard concert pitch for these wonderful instruments, particularly these new range of lyres, because each tortoise shell and each pair of ram's horns are never the same. So you just got to sort of find a tuning that basically fits, and the way you do that, you just fiddle around with the bottom string till you get a tension which isn't too slack, but isn't going to actually snap all the strings. Then you sort of start off from that and work your way up very gently to, again, you don't snap any strings. And the optimum tension I found for this little wonderful lyre is to have the bottom note to our modern equivalent of E flat. So, with that particular tuning, here's how you would tune it to get the wonderful sound of the ancient Greek Dorian mode starting on the 2nd string. This is what the Dorian mode sounds like. I'll play it with my wonderful replica 2,500-year-old ancient Greek plectrum. And whenever you play these wonderful lyres, you have these things called a telemon, which you can order from Luthieros, which were played off in ancient Greek times to play the lyre with both hands. So here's what the ancient Greek Dorian mode sounds like, starting on the 2nd string from the bottom. And this mode features in numerous numbers of my compositions. For example, one of my earlier pieces called Hymn to Zeus from my album Apollo's Lyre. And so on. So that's just to give you a little flavour, this wonderful, intense sounding ancient Greek mode. So in order to play this mode, the bottom string is E flat. The starting note of the mode is the 2nd string, and that is, with my particular tuning, that is F, G flat, A flat, B flat, C, D flat, E flat, F. Or just treating it as a transposing instrument, you'd call this note E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. Much easier to think in terms of the white notes of the piano. So once you've got the actual physical tuning, just think in terms of the white notes of the piano, just transpose, and it's much easier to think in those sorts of terms. So that's your ancient Greek Dorian mode. According to Plato, this was the most manly of all the modes, and was actually good. He could inspire bravery in battle, as he describes it in his writings in the Republic. It also, when it's played softly, is very intense sounding, almost philosophical mode. And you can hear a lot of this ancient Greek mode, the Dorian mode, in my forthcoming little release, which is going to be called the Ancient Greek Tortoise Lyre. And it's all inspired by the philosophers of ancient Greece. So I used a lot of the ancient Greek Dorian mode to get this really intense, contemplative feel to some of the tunes. Anyway, that'll be on iTunes and Amazon very shortly. Keep an eye on my bulletins. That's the plug out the way with. So that's your ancient Greek Dorian mode with this tuning. The same tuning facilitates the ancient Greek Hyperdorian mode. Remember that we said that was the equivalent intervals as A to A on the white notes of the piano, sometimes called the natural minor mode, from which all our minor scales we use today are derived from. And you can get to the natural minor mode starting on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5th string up from your E flat. So looking back at my little chart here, the Hyperdorian mode would physically start on a B flat. So B flat, C, D flat, E flat, F. And just going down from that. So the starting note of that mode is actually right in the middle there, on the B flat. But treating it as a transposing instrument, you'd have A, B, C, D, E, and coming back down, E, D, C, B, A, G, F, E, D, and so on. So that gives you this wonderful melancholy sound. And here's a little blast of something in this wonderful melancholy sounding ancient Greek Hypodorian mode. Here we go. So just a little improvisation that was. In the Hypodorian mode, very mournful and melancholy. The other tunings you can use, with this very same tuning that I've given you, you can also play the ancient Greek Phrygian mode. That's starting on the bottom string. Now the ancient Greek Phrygian mode was the equivalent intervals, as I mentioned, as D to D on the white notes of the piano. Very melancholy, sort of yearning sound it creates. Now here's a little number in the ancient Greek Phrygian mode, just a few bars of my little composition called Nero's Lyre. And so on. So really sort of poignant sort of effect, the ancient Greek Phrygian mode. To play the other ancient Greek modes, you need to do a bit of a retune. So I'm just going to have a little brief retune. For really precise tunings, I use the Clear Tune app, which you can get from Google Play. And that can be used on any sort of iPod or iPhone or Samsung phone, that sort of thing. That's a wonderful beast, because So you can, it's got an intonation there called Pythagorean just intonation. That gives you a wonderful clear sound compared to the muddy sort of intervals we have in modern equal temperament. Right, so to play the other modes, having a quick retune, let's just do that now. So, okay, that's E flat at the bottom, F, G, we need G flat, G, sorry, just got to work this out. So just going to move that string up a bit. I'll talk you through which notes they are in a minute. Right, so what I've done there, I just changed the pitch of one of these strings. Right, so this tuning now is, the actual physical pitch is E flat, and we have, where are we? Yeah, E flat, F. So instead of having G flat, this is a normal G. G, then A flat, B flat, C, D natural. Oops, that's not a D natural. And then we have E flat, then F at the top. A sort of approximate tuner there because I'm not using any tuners. So this tuning, the equivalent intervals are, if you just think in terms of C, the bottom note would be C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. So basically a regular major scale with just one note above it. And this particular tuning gives you the ancient Greek Lydian mode, which is that equivalent intervals as C to C on the white notes of the piano. Then starting on the second string up would give you the equivalent intervals as D to D, and this is again the Phrygian, the ancient Greek Phrygian mode that we had earlier, but it's got an extra note at the bottom for more harmonic variation. So then moving up again, you can have in this one your Hyperlydian mode. This is the equivalent intervals as F to F on the white notes of the piano. Very dreamy sound. Here's an actual fragment of an ancient Greek melody called the Bellman fragment, which uses this tuning. And that is the equivalent intervals as F to F. So treating it as a transposing instrument, you have C, D, E, and the fourth string would be the actual note that the mode starts on, F, G, A, B natural, C, D, and so on. This particular tuning also enables you to play the ancient Greek Hypo-Phrygian mode, the equivalent intervals as G to G on the white notes of the piano. And this would be starting on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the fifth string up. So treating it as a transposing instrument, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. And one of the most famous fragments of, well, not fragment, the most famous examples of a complete piece of ancient Greek music, the Scholion of Chelys, an ancient Greek drinking song found on an ancient Greek burial stone, is written in this particular ancient Greek mode, the Hypo-Phrygian mode. Here's a few bars of it. I'll play it with my wonderful bone plectrum. all the ancient Greek modes you could ever wish to use on these wonderful instruments. So more on ancient tuning methods and how ancient Greeks tune their various lyres on my website blog. Just simply go to ancientlyre.com and read all my wonderful blogs. And this beautiful lyre, as I say, is available from the Luthieros Etsy store. Just or Google search the Kylix Lyre of Pan, King Kylix Lyre of Pan, and one of these beauties will pop up. Anyway, I hope that's all made sense. And to hear more of these wonderful ancient Greek modes, check out my, and of course this wonderful lyre. So my new album, the Ancient Greek Tortoise Lyre, as it is called, will soon be available on all the major digital music stores, including iTunes and Amazon. And rest assured, I will let you all know when the album is out. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the music.